the Bris Bein Absarim, a very exalted moment in history. And Hashem tells Avraham Avinu the following: Yodoya Teda, you should know, Ki ger yeh zaracha be'eretz lo Elohem, va'avodum v'inu eisa. The Yidden are going to find themselves in a country which is not theirs, and they are going to work hard for many, many years. And Chazal say that in this pasuk, it is hinted not only the Golus of Mitzrayim, but it is hinted actually all of the exiles, all the Golias that the Yidden experienced. Generally, the Golias are split into four. The ones after Mitzrayim are split into four parts. The first one is the Golus of Bavel, the first Golus after the first Beis HaMikdash. The second one is the Golus of Madai, and also Paras together. The third one is the Golus of Yavan, and the fourth is the Golus of Edom from Rome, that they destroyed the second Beis HaMikdash, and its continuation up until today. And Chazal say that these four Golias are actually hinted to also in the pasuk that it says by the Bris Bein Absarim, in the beginning of the Bris Bein Absarim, where the pasuk says V'hinei eimo chashecha gedoylo neifelas alav. In Bereshis Perek Tezvav pasuk Yud Beis, the pasuk says that, and behold, there was a great fear and a great darkness that fell upon him, fell upon Avraham Avinu. And the Medrash says, the Medrash explains this pasuk to refer to the four Golias after Mitzrayim as well, in a hinting way. The Medrash in Bereshis Rabbah Parshim Daled Yud Zayin, and it means as follows: that the first word in the pasuk Ema, which means fear, is referring to the Golus of Bavel from the first Beis HaMikdash. Chashecha, the darkness, is referring to Madai. Gedoyla, the big darkness, is referring to Yavan. And Neifelas Alav, the last words of the pasuk that fell upon Avraham Avinu, is referring to the final Golus of Edom. There's another Medrash, which from the Pirkei Rebbe Lazar, which expounds very much on the Bris Bein Absarim. It's in the Pirkei Rebbe Lazar, Perek Chavtes, and he explains similar to this Medrash that we just mentioned, but there's a few differences. One of the main differences is that the first Golus of Bavel he replaces with the Golus of Yishma. And over there he explains that the karbonis, the animals that Avraham Avinu brought, and he cut them and he went in between those animals also refer to the four Golias after Mitzrayim. And he works his way backwards. The Egla Mishulashes, the three heifers, they refer to Malchus Edom, to the last Malchus, to the last Golus. The Eiz Mishulashes, the three goats, refer to the Malchus of Yavan, the Golus of Yavan. Ayel Mishulash, that it says in the pasuk that Avraham Avinu cut in half, which are the three rams, they refer to the Malchus of Madai and Paras. And the Toir, which is the turtle dove, refers to the Malchus of Yishmael, which is instead of the Malchus of Bavel, which was the first Golus. So we see that when Avraham Avinu brought these animals and he cut them, the point was that by cutting them, he was actually weakening these Malchias, these kingships, which brought the Yidden into Golus, and they gave the Yidden difficult sarais. So by cutting these animals that were connected, these Malchias, these kingships, Avraham Avinu was actually weakening them, that the problems that they make for the Yidden should be weakened, shouldn't be even worse than they already were, because they could have been, of course, a lot worse, that no one would be able to handle their harshness. However, it explains over there that the Geisel, the final bird that Avraham Avinu brought, the Geisel, which is a fledgling, it says that that refers to the Yidden. And Avraham Avinu didn't cut the Geisel in half because he didn't want to cut the Yidden in half, of course. And then the next pasuk says that the ayit came upon the animals that Avraham Avinu had cut. The ayit was the bird of prey, and it wanted to eat them. It wanted to eat those animals. But it says that Avraham Avinu pushed away the ayat, Avraham Avinu pushed away, he drove away the bird of prey. And it says that the ayat refers actually to Moshiach ben David. And Moshiach ben David wanted to come and get rid of those animals that were cut, which were a remez for the various malchias, the various kingships that were going to subjugate the Yidden. Moshiach ben David was coming to get rid of that. And Avraham Avinu drove it away. And the question is asked that if the ayat refers to Moshiach ben David, which is trying to get rid of the malchias, it's trying to bring the geula quicker, and it's trying to get rid of those things that are going to subjugate and make tsar and yisurim for the Yidden. So then the question is, why was Avraham Avinu driving it away? Avraham Avinu should have let it come and end the galus, the exiles earlier. To answer this, Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel in his Sefer Yeshua's Mashiachai, in the first Chelek Amud Yud Aleph, he gives a beautiful explanation we could understand why Avraham Avinu did what he did. And he divides the final galus, the final exile, into three parts. The first part is a time when Mashiach cannot come. It's not possible in Mitzias that Mashiach should be able to come and redeem the Yidden from galus to geula. The second tkufa is a tkufa when Mashiach maybe could come, but it's not the proper time yet. And if Mashiach comes prematurely, although it could happen, but many of the great miracles, the great wonders that is spoken about in the Nevi'im, that the Nevi'im knew of, which are supposed to happen when Mashiach will come, would not be able to happen if Mashiach would have come back then. And then there's the third tkufa, the third time period of the galus, which is when Mashiach is the correct and proper time that he should come. And according to this foundation, the Abarbanel explains as follows. He says that the Bris Bein Absarim was actually a 24-hour period where the Bris Bein Absarim took place. It started at night, and the ayat, the bird of prey, never came during the evening in order to try to eat and take away those pieces of flesh that Avraham Avinu had cut to walk in between for the Bris Bein Absarim. Because the night is not the time. During the nighttime, it's not yet the time for Mashiach to come. But then, during the day, before the next evening, the ayat came. The bird of prey came because Mashiach wanted to try to make that the geula should be able to come a little earlier than the final time. Mashiach should be able to come in the second stage when Mashiach is able to come, but the geula won't be as complete a redemption as it could have been if Mashiach would come a bit later in the third time period. But Avraham Avinu drove away the bird of prey, and he, so to speak, was saying that better let Mashiach come a little bit later in the third time period, when it's the correct time. Then it's going to be a proper redemption, and there's going to be all the greatest miracles, and the enemies will be driven away and will be taken away in the most complete manner. That's the time when Mashiach should come. And that's why it says, the Abarbanel says that he used sudarim, Avraham Avinu used kerchiefs to drive away the birds of prey. Because sudarim is also seder. He wanted that it should go according to the correct seder and order that it was set up that Mashiach should come in the third tkufa, in the third stage, in the third time period of the galus, when it's the proper time for Mashiach to come, and then the redemption will be a proper and complete redemption, both in regard to getting rid of the darkness of the galus and in regard with experiencing the greatest geula possible.